You find yourself in a quiet Georgian kitchen. The year is 1773, and the air is thick with the smell of boiled mutton and overcooked turnips. You glance over the table. A plump crimson fruit sits untouched on a cracked ceramic plate. No one dares to eat it. The housekeeper eyes it warily. The scullery maid mutters a prayer, and the gentleman of the house, Mr. Peter Havisham, sighs as he reaches instead for a dry biscuit. That tomato, or love apple as some call it, might be deadly. In the Georgian-era of Britain, tomatoes weren't the culinary stars they are today. In fact, they were feared. Not for their acidity, or even for their odd fleshy consistency, but because many believed them to be poisonous. And in a certain roundabout way, they were, if you were wealthy enough. The tomato made its way to Britain from the Americas in the 16th century. Spanish and Portuguese traders brought seeds and cuttings back from the New World, where indigenous peoples had long cultivated the fruit. In England, though, it was viewed with suspicion. Early botanists placed the tomato in the Solanaceae family, the same family as nightshade and mandrake, plants that had sinister reputations and even darker folk legends attached. This didn't help the tomato's case. But the more direct reason for its fear had less to do with botany and more to do with silver. You see, Georgian aristocrats, ever eager to display their refinement, ate their meals off pewter, or more extravagantly, pure silver plates. Tomatoes, with their high acidity, interacted with these metals, leaching lead into the food. Diners would fall ill, some even died. And what did they blame? The strange red fruit. Of course, the working classes, who rarely saw a tomato and never saw silver, didn't suffer these same afflictions. But the reputation stuck. The tomato became known as a dangerous decorative oddity, better suited to the garden than the dinner table. In fact, it was common to grow tomatoes in ornamental beds alongside marigolds and peonies. Their rich colour and plump, waxy bodies made them appealing to look at, just not to eat. Some upper-class gardeners kept them purely as curiosities, grown in hothouses and presented to guests as novelties. Visitors would be shown the poison apple with a shiver of delight, like looking at a caged snake. Cookbooks of the time rarely included tomato recipes. The few that did usually warned readers to boil the fruit well, and even then to proceed with caution. A 1769 recipe for tomato sauce suggests boiling the tomatoes with vinegar and pepper until they lose all evil vapours. Another recommends mixing tomatoes with anchovy and onion until they are no longer of the garden variety but suitable for the tongue. Still, curiosity persisted. Travelling continental Europeans, particularly Italians, laughed at British fears. Tomatoes were already a staple in southern Europe, where they featured in sauces, stews, and even raw salads. Some Italian chefs tried to introduce tomato dishes to British noble tables, but often met resistance. One aristocratic hostess in 1782 allegedly sent a tomato-stuffed roast pigeon back to the kitchen, declaring it an insult to the bird. At the same time, strange tales began to circulate about the tomato's supposed magical properties. Some believed it was an aphrodisiac, hence the name love apple. Others said it could be used in potions or charms to bring about lust, madness, or even compliance in servants. The fruit hovered in that strange space between medicine, food, and threat. Interestingly, apothecaries in the countryside sometimes embraced the tomato, though not as a cure-all. Some rural healers mashed its pulp into poultices for inflamed skin, or prescribed tomato water as a diuretic. But these uses were fringe and largely confined to local folklore. In the eyes of the London medical establishment, the tomato was more likely to cause hysteria than cure it. Back in Mr. Havisham's kitchen, the tomato remains untouched as the rest of the meal passes in quiet discomfort. It had been given as a gift by a French cousin, freshly arrived from Paris, and no one has the heart to throw it away. The cook finally scoops it up with her apron and deposits it under the hedge, where it joins a growing collection of other misunderstood fruits. And yet, in the shadows of Georgian society, there were whispers of change. Certain intellectuals and scientists began to question the tomato's bad reputation. Gardeners recorded fewer incidents of illness when eating the fruit off ceramic plates. Food writers started to explore tomato sauces in connection with Italian cuisine. Could it be that the tomato's curse was not in the fruit, but in the silver? As the kitchen settles into silence and the candles gutter low, a question lingers in the air. What would happen if someone dared to cook with the tomato again, not as a poison, but as a proper food?